Today I want to show you my tiny PC, which is made by Lenovo. It's a model M700. It's called tiny because it is very small. Here's my hand, and so what I'll be doing is that this has 8 gig of RAM and i5 CPU, and I'll be upgrading this to a 1 terabyte SSD, which is actually on an M2 slot here, and unfortunately it cannot boot off of an NVMe drive, but so I'm using the SATA drive here. Because it's a large size, I'll be using it as a data partition and a puppy. So Bionicpup64 is what I plan to use. So next is after I close the case up, I'll be starting on Ventoy, so that on a USB stick, and that will allow me to go ahead and install using a Frugal Pup in UEFI BIOS, which is the one that I have here. Now I have a Ventoy stick inserted here, and here's a power on and off. This is my amplifier, and this is the monitor, obviously. So we'll go ahead and start the power, and then I have to push an F12. Sorry, I have to push an F12 to get it into the boot on this particular computer. So we'll go ahead and check the first and only flash drive, Samsung. So we'll go ahead and enter that, and here's the Ventoy, and then we'll go down to the bottom here where Pup64, and we'll go ahead and get that started. And I would rather just go to the normal mode is fine on the top, and then load the defaults the first, and then I would just rather just be on a RAM only, so it'd be faster. So we'll just wait a couple minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get into Gparted. What we want to do is bring up a Gparted. So Gparted under System and Gparted. And then SDB is my booting USB. It's a Ventoy booting, but we don't want SDB. We want to work with the internal SDA, which is a 1 terabyte disk. So we'll go ahead and bring that up. And then because of it's all empty, it's unallocated. So what the first thing you have to do is go under Device and create partition table. Now I'm running UEFI. So in UEFI, then it should be GPT. But if you're on a regular legacy BIOS, slightly older machine, then you need to use MS-DOS, but we're gonna use GPT because of I am running a the UEFI BIOS machine. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then what we need to do is create partitions. So the first partition should be FAT32. And I'm only going to install a Puppy Linux distro. So the first FAT32 is, I usually like to put a label of EFI, and then it should be very small. So usually 300 megabytes is more than enough. So we'll go ahead and add. So that's 300, and then it's at, say 953 gigabytes, so that we have plenty of room. So the next part is for the different Puppy Linux that I'll be using. Usually I have up to 3 different ISOs, installed. But so, and for it's more than enough to have about 4 gigs of space. So 4,000, and then use ext4, and then I'll just put in for my information label of pups, different pups, puppy Linux. And then we'll go ahead and do that. So the second, now I like to make a different partition for save folder. So what I do is right click again and new, and then I usually I play around with many different ISOs, Puppy Linux ISOs. So usually what I like to do is give it a label of capital S, capital A, capital V. These are partition for save folders only. So, and then I usually like to give maybe in this case 50 gigs. So 5 followed by 4 zeros. So that's fine. And then rest of it, because I have 8 gigs of RAM, I don't really need a swap file in Puppy Linux. So I'll go ahead and give the rest of it into data. So these will contain photos and music and documents and so on. So that's a lot of space that and again, ext4 data is for my own information, and then I go ahead and apply all the operations. So we'll go ahead and do that now, and then you'll give it a minute, and it's done. Now at this point, it's very important to make a first partition in UEFI. Right click on the first partition and then manage flags. So this is the bootable, this will contain Grub. So what we have to do is if you click on ESP, it'll also click the boot. So that's what you want, and then close, and it's already done its job. So we'll go ahead and, so we partitioned into 4 different spaces. So here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this 4 again is data, and this is our save folder. So we'll close that. Now what we want to do is put the Bionicpup. Now I went ahead and downloaded the Bionicpup64 ISO here in downloads. Here is Bionicpup64-8.0-UEFI-ISO. This is, although it says UEFI, it'll also work in regular legacy BIOS. So this is the correct ISO. So we'll go ahead and have that ready in here. And then next is what we want to do is install the puppy. So we'll go ahead and click on there, and it's going to be ISO here, and it'll be ISO, so that's correct. And then what we want to do is just simply drag this into here, and then it'll recognize the ISO. So we'll go ahead and OK it. And then we want to put it in SDA2. That's where the pups are. So SDA2, select a partition that contains puppies. So okay, so that's okay. And then we want to create the folder. So I'll create a folder, and I'll name it BP80. So you can name it anything you want, but I'll go ahead and do that. Next step is very important. You just need to click the return button here. So just return, enter here, and then you say OK. That's where we want to put the puppy files. So puppy files will go in here under BP here. Okay, so that's SDA2. And then it's asking where are we going to have a save partition. So it's going to be save partition, it's going to be SDA3, capital SAV. So that's okay. And then we created a save folder by making a SAVE folder here. So we'll go ahead and give it an okay. And then okay. Okay, and then that's all correct. And now it's copied the files and then it's gonna give it an okay. So now since there is a Bionicpup that's installed, next thing we want to do is get a Grub bootloader installed. So we'll go ahead and boot here, and then SDA2 is where the puppy Bionicpup is, so it's SDA2 is correct, so it's okay. And then indeed here SDA2 BP80 is correct, okay. And then we want to put in the a Grub and SDA1 with a boot flag that we made, so okay. And then about to write the file, so he's going to create the files in SDA. So we'll go ahead and okay it. So now file is written to SDA1, okay, and then we'll exit. Now we want to take a look at the Grub file, so that's just been created. So we'll go ahead and open the SDA1 and then right click on Grub file and then go to Genie, and let's take a brief look. I know the letters are hard to read because of, and let's see if I can just make it a little large for us. So we'll go ahead and interface, and then rather than 10, we'll make it 14. Okay, so it should be easier to read now. Okay, now it's much easier. So we'll go ahead and open that up a little bit and go to view, line documents, line wrapping. Okay, so you can see that we only have Bionicpup64 installed, and I just prefer to change that to the name to BP80. BP80. So I know that's a Bionicpup, and then it's gonna save the within the partition of capital SAV and into the folder. So that's all correct. And then so we'll go ahead and save it, and then exit out, and then exit, and let's just reboot it, see if it boots into the system now. I'm gonna reboot, and then I'm gonna take out my Ventoys USB stick. So it only has one bootable disk, which is the internal hard drive. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna take the USB stick out. We don't want to save this, so no. And then we simply just want to boot into the fresh install of Bionicpup into a new hard drive. So indeed it recognized the BP80, and I'll go ahead and give it an enter and then see if it boots into the initial screen. So it's looking good so far. So we should get a quick initial setup screen. So now everything is working. So now I've shown you how to partition a new hard drive of Bionicpup64. using Ventoy USB stick and a UEFI machine. And I hope this has been helpful. Thanks.